Welcome to Ladies in Logistics with founder and CEO of Boss Lady Logistics, Hannah Herkus.
Welcome to Ladies in Logistics, the podcast where we tell the real stories of women moving freight, leading teams, and building power in one of the toughest industries out there. Today, I am joined by Miss Anique Lesage. She is the owner of Small World Brokerage, and I'm excited to get into it. Good to have you, Anique.
Thank you for having me. Great to
Absolutely.
be here.
Thanks so much for being here. We are sitting down with the women who do the work on the floor, in the boardroom, and everywhere in between. And this is not about titles or highlight reels. It's about how we got here, what we learned the hard way, and how we're changing the industry by showing up exactly as we are. And if you're
Mhm.
enjoying these conversations, make sure to hit the follow button so you don't miss what happens next. Let's get into it. Anique, I'm very, very excited to talk to you today. I feel like you are incredibly knowledgeable about a lot of the things in the industry. And so
Thank
I'm
you.
just going to start out with the main thing. How did you get into this industry, and what has kept you here?
Hey, first off, again, thank you so much for having me because I saw you on Levi's podcast and I was like, I like her brain. Something is very tickly about it. So um, I'm happy to be here. I got into logistics immediately after college. I have a degree in biology and never used it a day in my life. So I didn't want to either after I got that degree. So I was like, well, great. Now what am I going to do? So I really just answered an ad for a job. I think a headhunter actually found it for me in New York. That was my first job after school. And it entailed a lot of inventory management and a lot of bulk shipping, like drop shipping. And so I started out on the shipper end of it, and it evolved into larger freight and then into customs. And eventually, I found a logistics adjacent job that I could apply for, and it turned out to be a freight broker. And I was horrible at it.
We definitely learn on the job, especially in this
hmm
industry. A lot can be taught, but a lot of it really is just hands-on, like talking to the drivers, talking to the customers. There's things that come up that you would never even think of. And I feel like our SOPs are always changing and ever flowing because of new experiences that we've had. So, I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
No problem. I get a lot of messages from people, and they just have experienced something that they have never experienced before. So they're like, "Hey, is this normal?" And I'm like, "No, it's not normal, but it will be in 6 months. It will be. Everything changes in this. It's not normal until we normalize it, and the more you see it, that's how it happens. So don't panic if something pops up that's not what is in your everyday, repertoire of operations." You know?
Absolutely. I love the rush that is logistics. Every single day is different. And I think that's,
Mhm.
maybe why our brains work in this way and why we do so well in this industry is because our brains work in this way where we love the challenge. We love the opportunity to showcase our talents and come to
Mhm.
solutions.
Yes.
Coming to a solution together with my team is one of the most invigorating things. And seeing like we had a turkey roll down a hill and hit a guy's windshield one time. How do you even begin to deal? Like, there's no
Do you
state,
mean?
right? Like, there's no SOP for when the turkey rolls down the hill and hits your driver's windshield. This is what you do. And so we wrote one, right? Because
Mhm.
obviously it's happened once, it can happen again. So, these unique opportunities to kind of have these cool experiences that no one else really has the opportunity
Exactly.
to have. Like, that is what I love about logistics is the invigorating day to day, everything is
Yeah.
different.
It's
So,
puzzle pieces because you
absolutely.
don't know, or sometimes you have to actually create the piece to that puzzle, and it keeps on growing. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. It's a hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about puzzle pieces, I have a huge affinity for puzzles, and it's probably why I love logistics. But
Mhm.
you've kind of added another puzzle piece to your repertoire. You mentioned that you recently got into law school. Could you tell me a little
Yes.
bit more about that?
Yes. So there's a lot of advocacy groups in the industry right now, mostly on the trucker side. And it's these kinds of things form out of desperation, out of a need for change. And in their rawest form right now, it's just maybe some shaped marble. But with some refinery, with some sanding and some, really good hands, it can turn into something that can really affect change. Um, But in the wrong hands, it can turn into a pile of rubble. So my biggest drive to do this was to make sure that the needs fall into a little bit more skilled hands. And nobody was addressing that. They were just kind of allowing the freight train to go in the wrong direction. And so I'm not the kind of person that is going to sit there and look for the hero. I'm running into the building. And I'm not thinking to myself, I'm going to be the hero. It really just evolves from I need to learn a little bit more about this, and then you become educated by it, and then you can actually speak on it, and then you get ideas because you collab and you have conversations. And I never wanted to get into law school to take on clients or anything like that. I really just want to be a part of affecting change and policy in a respectable way where politicians are not saying, oh, these drivers are asking for this again or that. I want some credible and intellectual and also very real and experienced minds in the process of determining what the future is of this industry.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because when we talk about experienced minds, when we look at our policy writers, a lot of them did just go straight into law school. None of them came with like a background in trucking. And I feel like that is so, so, so valuable, that real world experience of I've been in the trucking world, I've been a freight broker, I've, talked to drivers, talked to shippers, talked to carriers,
Mhm.
that type of experience really gives you an edge that others don't have. And I absolutely commend you for doing that because it is our job as women leaders in this industry to leave it better than we found it. And I
Yes.
really, really appreciate that. I mean, that's incredible. Love meeting another boss
Thank
lady
you.
in the industry. And yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see you on Capitol Hill. That's going to be so incredible.
My God,
Um,
goosebumps.
right. So, when did you realize, in your career that you kind of had this drive that you were capable of more?
So I didn't really realize it. And there was a quote that I heard, you don't realize your awesomeness because you are living within it. So it's hard to see it. You think that you have other things to strive for when in reality you are actually being awesome. So I started out again being really horrible at this and making a lot of mistakes and losing money and making people angry. But I also had to change it and turn it around. And that is where the awesomeness comes from, is how you take a really bad situation and you make it something that is maybe not just neutral, but beneficial. And you learn from it. So for a really long time, I walked around thinking like, there's a million people that are better than me at this. And then I started noticing people copying what I do. And that is a true um, wake up call for you that maybe you're doing something right and maybe you're actually um, doing something really well, especially if those people who are copying you are succeeding and doing really well. And so I thought to myself, if these people are doing exactly what I'm doing and they're exceeding and doing really well, I need to just have that kind of confidence and maybe even a little bit of arrogance, like borrow some arrogance at first before it turns into confidence, just to you know, fake it till you make it until you're actually living in it. And then I could go further. But the only thing that was holding me back was my own belief system about the mistakes I had made and my propensity for them. But I like it. I like it that I can fall on my face because that's the puzzle piece. How do you navigate your way out? You move to a new city and you get lost on purpose so that you can learn the roads. And that's
Absolutely.
exactly what I started doing, and it still happens to this day. You see it on social media, on posts and stuff like that. You come up with a niche or you come up with an idea, and 6 months down the line, other people are trying to copy it, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you do that. I'm on to the next thing.
Right? No, and I love that. I feel like as women, it's really is our job to inspire people. And
Mhm.
I love that you're doing that. And I love learning from you. I think a lot of the things that you put on social media are so incredibly insightful. Things I
Thank you.
haven't heard, seeing things through different lenses, because I've got my lens, right? And
Mhm.
and my lens is going to be very different than your lens, is going to be very different than another person's lens. And so being able to hear the stories through those different lenses actually helps you kind of retain and interpret information in a different way. And so I love that, you're a woman voice on social media like I am,
Mhm.
helping to kind of rewrite and change this history because we are in a male dominated field, and standing on our own 2 feet as women and being able to showcase our talents, it's
Mhm.
hard, and we're going to get a lot of pushback, and we're going to be told like maybe we can't do those things because we act a certain way, look a certain way, or are a certain way, right?
Right.
And I know in the industry I've been underestimated a lot, and I'm sure you've had a lot of experiences with that. Can you share something, a story where you were underestimated, either in the
Yeah,
industry or personally or business wise?
absolutely. But first, I want to say I know that Levi, we were both interviewed by Levi on his podcast,
Okay.
and he did touch on the male dominated thing. And you and I had two very similar answers, but mine is it's not male dominated, it's more male gate kept. And you said it's not male dominated, it's not even male gate kept, it's just male populated. There's
Hmm.
just more of them.
Yeah.
And I think that the difference between the two is they get very mostly, I don't want to say not all men, but um, they get very wrapped up in the technicalities of things and just the surface level looks and appearances and minutia of that. I think that as women, we understand that people may not relate entirely to the actual situation, but they will relate to the feelings that you have in regards to it. Like that truck driver, not everybody's going to have a turkey that flies at their windshield, but they are going to be afraid. They are going to have an oh crap moment. They are going to have a panic. And what do they do in that panic? Are they running? Are they bolting? Are they hiding? What are they doing? And women have a way of being able to relay that experience where you don't have to write an SOP just for a turkey flying into a windshield. What do you do when the unexpected happens and you have to think on the spot? So, the most recent thing that happened to me where I was definitely underestimated was I have a client and they are managed by a 4PL. So, they have transportation management team at a 4PL. And when rates started going crazy, ice storms started happening. Um, you know, we had some missed pickups. We had some problems with rates, obviously, because of ice storms. And I think there were two shipments that missed their pickup by a day, or it was requested that they get moved 2 days. And it was mostly because of the ice storm, but everybody panics. So they asked for this Teams meeting and I join in, and I am the only woman, and there are 5 men. And it became very apparent that I was going to be the scapegoat here. And I said, not
Wow.
today, not
Yeah.
today.
Wow.
So there was about 30 minutes of them just going around about the problem, what the issue is, what it caused, what the ripple effect of it was. And basically they just asked me, what do you have to say for yourself? Nowhere did they ask me for a solution. They just asked me to explain myself, explain what happened. And I think that the intention of that was to assign blame because for some reason they feel really good about being able to put that finger. And I said, well, this was not the activating event. The activating event wasn't even the ice storm. The activating event was when I bid on this and signed this contract, there were a bunch of DCs around your shipping location that were first come, first serve, live unload. And between us signing this contract and now, they've changed all of that to drop trailers, which causes a long, long wait time and appointments can't be met because of that. So the circumstances of that contract have changed and I've been trying to mitigate that. And I've actually been doing a really great job of that for the last few months. It's only been these ice storms that have caused this to happen. But here's the solution. If we need to make appointments, please involve me in that process of making the appointment so I can tell you whether or not my capacity can actually make those appointments. And I will tell you what's going on at those DCs and communicate with you in those regards. And I'm looking at this transit time. And even though I was a day late, it got there right on time because you have this slated for a 2 day transit time, but it's actually just one day. So I understand you don't like it that it missed the pickup, but it definitely got there on time. So I think the solution is just us working more as a team instead of a hierarchy. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we didn't think about that. We didn't even know that that was going on in the area. Iowa, that's where, and so I ended up going into a meeting fully prepared to be the sacrificial lamb and leaving it as the leader of the solutions. And the key difference between the two is I don't live in the problem. I live in the solution. And if I'm coming to you to be accountable for something, I already have a solution to the problem. We're addressing both at the same time.
Yeah. I love that. That's incredible.
Thanks.
Being able to shift minds, especially when people come in with assumptions and,
Mhm.
recommendations without having all of the information. And, typically that is what it is that they just don't have all of the information. And are they willing to hear it? Are they willing to learn from it? Are they willing to, actually like respond to your leadership? And I really appreciate that because that is some true leadership skills right there. And I absolutely love that because being able to shift mindsets, especially, when you are outnumbered in that way as the only
Yeah.
woman in the room, it can be challenging. So that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So
I learned it a long time ago. The little micro things that I do to assert where I am, my handshake is firm. My eye contact doesn't break first. If I'm in a room, my seat is at the same level so that I don't offer my business card first. I have people ask for it. I introduce with myself with the first and last name so there's no real familiarity until that's been earned. There are things that I do to set myself apart instead of trying so hard to fit in. I don't want to. I know I'm a square peg and that's a round hole. I never asked to fit in. I just want to have my own spot. It doesn't have to be at your table. I'll build my own.
I love that. Yeah, let's build it together because that is something that I really try to hone in on young women in this industry is that yeah, there aren't seats. It's gate kept, like you said. Boys club is happening. People are going to want to promote and have people around them that they have a lot of things in common with. And if there aren't women in leadership roles, you're not really going to have those opportunities as a woman, which was something that I faced at the beginning was I wasn't invited to certain events and told that I wasn't invited to certain events because of my
Mhm.
gender. And so
Right.
I didn't have the opportunity to then grow my career in the way that my male counterparts were able to because I wasn't
Mhm.
afforded the ability to go to those events.
Yeah, you didn't
Um,
have the same opportunity. So you have to
Exactly.
create them.
Exactly. And that's what it is. And let's be unapologetic about it because I think I love that I'm gonna stand on business because that's what
Mhm.
it's about. We're here to demand respect. We know what we're talking about. We're not just, some young girl who doesn't know anything. And I think that rhetoric really needs to be changed. And I absolutely love conversations like this that help, propel us into that future.
Mhm.
That's absolutely incredible.
Right.
What advice would you give to a young woman entering into this industry?
Do not try to fit into systems that were not created for you. You're not supposed to be there.
I love
And
that.
um, you are valid. Your opinions matter. Your education is valid. Your ideas are needed and necessary. And um, nobody is going to nobody is going to minimize you without your permission. So don't let them do it. Just keep on doing what you're doing. And if there's a problem, it's theirs and it's not yours. Nobody's opinion ever paid your bills.
Right?
So at the end of the day, if you can lay your head down on the pillow at night and go to sleep just fine, then, sorry they can't sleep. But
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
to know that you're keeping them awake.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, that comes back to my term about just being unapologetic about it, because I think as women, we really lean into people pleasing a lot and wanting to be soft and entertain people so that they want to talk to us, they want to do business with us. But I think as a leader, we really have to think differently, regardless of
Mhm.
our gender. So could you give me an example of maybe like a leadership example of when you had to really kind of hone in on someone who was working for you and teach them in a way that maybe was different than what they expected out of you?
Sure. I am not I'm not a teacher that is going to I'm not a teacher that is going to teach one way, and if you're not getting it, then you're not getting it, and maybe I'm not the right teacher for you. I am a teacher and a leader that takes way more pride in creating other leaders and creating other educators. And if you can take what I've taught you and make it your own and go in your direction, cool, because that's more space for us to dominate.
Yeah.
So um, I have a sub agent that brains are so funny. She's not just an audio learner. She's not just a visual learner, not just a dexterous learner. She needs all of those. So if I have to explain it to her in 5 or 6 different ways, that's what I have to do because it's like each part of her brain has different chambers and they're not talking to each other. So I have to make sure every single chamber of it understands where we're coming from. And so the success to that and the way of accomplishing that is not preparing her chambers, like her brain chambers. It's preparing myself for how I can connect because communication is nothing without comprehension. I can have the best vocabulary, I can have the best explanation for things, but if I'm speaking a different language, it's pointless. It's just a bunch of fancy words and, a high-priced education that I can't do anything with. So it's my responsibility if I wanna lead, not their responsibility. They don't know what they don't know. It's my responsibility to be able to meet and connect with them in a way that they're actually gonna understand. Because if they go out after training under me or learning under me and fail, that's my failure. I do take that personally because I didn't prepare them. You know, there's only so much I can do. Sure, there is an element of talent to things, but if I didn't prepare them with all of the information in a way that they could digest and make it palatable, then that's my own failing, and I have to learn to do better.
I so relate to that, Anik. I mean, I attribute it to parenting, right? Like I'm parenting 3 small children right now.
Mhm.
And what I say to one child, if I say it in the exact same way to another one, he won't hear me.
They won't get
and
it. They don't
and
exist in a monolith.
I
It's
know. And you really have to cater. I attribute this not just to parenting, but to leadership as well, right? When you're dealing with people, we talk about these different lenses. Everyone has a different lens. Everyone has different perspectives. Everyone has a different way that they learn and interpret things. And so what works for one person is not going to work for another person. And so I think as women, not to toot our own horns or anything, but I think that's what makes us such great leaders is that we
yes.
have this instinct that's animal, I think, to really nurture and care for the people who we are taking care of in a certain way. And we want them to succeed. We want to see them succeed. And we want to be the ones to teach them how to succeed. And I think it's very, very innate in our animalistic brain and our reptilian brain as women because we are creators. We aren't
Yeah.
competitors.
No.
We talk about the competitive world of trucking. It's like, I'm not here to compete. I'm here to create. I want to
Yes.
create something different. I want to create my own table. I want to create my own everything. I don't want to take anything away from anyone else. There's plenty out there for everyone, and we can all succeed together. And I think this table of creation, as opposed to competition, is kind of the vibe I'm getting from you. And that's my vibe too, is like, let's all just go together and we can figure it out together. And yes, when I set my employees out into the world, I want them to have the language that is Hannah. I want them to have the rhetoric that is Hannah. I want them to understand the expectations of me as a leader so that when they go out, they have that confidence and they are able to succeed. And I like you said, I do take it personally when they
Mhm.
succeed or when they fail because it is my failure, it is my success.
Mhm.
And there is no I in my business. It's all we because
Right.
if I'm sitting here recording this podcast with you and my team has, a flop of some sort, that is my flop. And I will come in and help to rectify that situation.
Mhm.
Same thing with the good things. anything that I have that's a success is my team's success, and vice versa. We are all a team, and there is no reason why, there needs to be some type of, let's say, even tables that exist, right? We should just all kind of be hanging out in a field somewhere,
Sure.
kumbaya with our guitars, because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're all just trying to make this job work. And if you have the skills, if you have the talents, and if you're able to put them into use in a very specific way, who cares what gender you are? Who cares how you identify, what race you are, etc. Because and I think this is the trajectory that we are going, especially in 2026, where this matters and more women are coming up in leadership. And I think
Mhm.
these kind of conversations are really, really important. And I would hope that
Sure.
we're inspiring young leaders to actually want to have impact in the industry.
I think also touching on that as far as our team's success is my success or my success as a team. That really also speaks to is an acknowledgement of how we are supported in addition to how we support other people. And that is a big difference. There's a lot of competition. And what I notice as more and more women come into the industry is that we're very empowering of each other. We lift each other up. We collaborate very well. If there is something problematic happening, we come together and we find a solution, or we resolve it or nip it in the bud real quick. Um, i- Last week there were two other creators on TikTok who I'm mutuals with, and we identified a very problematic shipper, a very predatory shipper, and just through information, not mudslinging, not calling names or anything like that. We were like, this is what people have experienced here, and we put it out there. And much like in dangerous situations in the real world, also in shipping, gossip is saving businesses and gossip is saving lives. And that is something that we get faulted for very much. And it's, an indicative behavior of women. Oh, they're just being messy, they're gossiping. Gossiping saves businesses. How many drivers are not going to go in and get fined and be forced to drive through hurricanes and not get paid for 200 days because we were gossiping and we were being chatty Cathy's? But that's our accomplishment. So girls might compete, but women definitely empower. And we're going to see a lot more of that collaboration instead of competition and, you know, who's going to be better. This is a huge industry that has been around forever, and it's a $500 billion industry. We're not all getting it. Let's all be here and make it better together and build businesses together and support one another.
That's absolutely incredible. I couldn't have said it better myself. This is Real Talk in Logistics, where we say the things that not everyone wants to hear.
Sure.
So,
Here
Anik,
for it. Yes.
what what is something about leadership in this industry that people just don't say out loud?
Oh, people are elevated more so as a way to get them away from where they currently are. Or they've been promoted and they've been amplified just so that there's more space moved away from everybody else, if that makes sense. I see more people that have gotten into positions just because they were not successful in these and not because it was an elevation or a evolution of the skills that they've had. And that has become so much of the norm and so celebrated that it's hard to see exactly what the contribution is sometimes aside from talking and talking points. So people focus so much on the successes and just the fact that somebody is in that position makes them a success. How many times did you fail? How many times did you fail before you got there? What did you learn from those failures? And like, what were the songs that helped you through it when
Mm,
you felt like you were worthless?
yeah.
And when was the last time you actually felt worthless? Or have you never because people were just like, good boy, here you go over there. When it was like the equivalent of mom saying, oh, you've earned going outside to play. She needed a minute of peace. so,
Yeah.
so I think that people need to examine they need to examine the hard times that occurred before that success and what got them there, because there's about 45 of them, or should be,
Absolutely.
before
Hmm.
they're in that place to talk the talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. That is absolutely incredible. So, one last question for you before we end. What is advice that you would give to your younger self?
Oh my gosh. Nobody's coming to save you. You have been able to do it all along. And anybody that comes to you and swears that they're the hero that you have been waiting for is robbing you of your opportunity to be your own hero. And you should absolutely take offense to that, and you should act accordingly. But
That is awesome. That is so I, like, felt that right here. I mean, that is incredibly, incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
I we could have a whole 'nother 30-minute conversation just about
Yeah,
that.
yes.
Awesome.
That just speaks to, all right, to sum it up, girl, find your boundaries. Find your boundaries, stick to them, respect other people's boundaries. That's going to get you way farther than people pleasing. And if you're people pleasing, then it is a sign that you are emotionally insecure because you are afraid of not speaking your truth because it'll make other people not like you. Be okay with not being liked. You're it's so much fun being 47 and being just fine with not being liked and knowing that there are just some people who are not for me and vice versa. I'm not for everybody either. And that is so freeing. Second half of life has begun.
That's awesome. I mean, that's incredible. I couldn't have said it better myself. And, any of our listeners that are listening out there, if you're a young woman in logistics or in any type of male dominated, male populated, male gate kept field, please know that you are not alone and you are valued. And those boundaries are just so incredibly important.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Anik. I really appreciate it. If today's conversation resonated with you, please know that you are not alone and go ahead and share this with someone who absolutely needs to hear it. And
Mhm.
until next time, I'm Hannah
Thank
Herkis
you.
with Boss Lady Logistics. And thank you so much to my guest, Anik Lesage. You can
Thanks for
find
having me.
her on all the social medias
All the socials.
and keep on keeping on. Let's do this thing together. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.